Hello, my name is Jay Goodman, and my research project is dedicated to composing and implementing music into video games. So, first of all, what is interactive game music? This is music that changes depending on the player's actions. And it's different from film music in the sense that with a film, you have a set timeline of events that happens the same way every time. But with a video game, you don't really know necessarily when certain music cues are going to trigger because the game is controlled by the player, not by a director. So you have to write music in a more modular way where it can be transitioned in and out of different segments according to what's happening in the game environment. So to do this, I composed the music as I would anything else. I composed it in a notation software, and then I mixed and mastered it into a DAW. For this project, I used Logic. And then from Logic, I bounced out the stems and I put those into an audio middleware program. And audio middleware is essentially a program that organizes the audio into a video game without the need for a lot of coding experience. It sort of streamlines the process of calling on different music cues. And there's a lot of different audio middleware programs out there, but for this project I used Wise. And then from Wise, I bounced out all of the audio data into what is called a sound bank, which is essentially just a folder with data. And I implemented the sound bank into my game engine, which for this project I used Unity. And a game engine is essentially just the program that you build the actual game in. It has all of the objects and the scripts and everything that you need to put the game together. So for this project, I downloaded 3 different game demos from the Unity Learn website, and I composed music for them and then implemented that music using Wise into Unity. So the first game I wrote music for was John Lemon's Haunted Jaunt. The second game I composed for was Dragon Crashers. And the third game I composed for was Wild Wild Cacti. Thank you.
Surround sound is one of those concepts in sound recording that isn't touched upon as often as it should, given the fact that commonly used DAWs like Pro Tools and Logic Pro X have a surround sound renderer natively built into the base versions of the DAW, and there's even more support with third-party plugins. Part of the reason you'd want to learn more about surround sound mixing is because a lot of Bluetooth earbuds have been getting features that enable the gyroscope within the earbud or the gyroscope within your phone to detect your head and simulate the surround sound systems for home audio setups like 5.1 or 7.1. Major streaming platforms even allow for the technology to be used on songs that were uploaded with a surround mix. Another reason is the application for video games and films, which have always had an ear for immersive audio to get the audience engaged with the media as much as possible. Dolby Atmos has become the industry standard for surround sound mixing, and it provides a lot of versatility for the grand price of free with a subscription to Pro Tools or a license purchase with Logic. It requires a little more knowledge of signal flow than a standard mix, but if you played around with sends and bus channels before, it should come naturally after a few hours. You can automate it just like any other plugin and have a bunch of cool effects with the addition of multiple access. It allows you to switch between bus and object modes, which is useful when you want to send audio information like a reverb or distortion as a swooping effect across the mix. The catch is that the ADM file that renders is a special WAV file with additional metadata that can only be read through a physical surround audio setup, or needs to be encoded with Dolby's proprietary media encoder, which requires a professional license to even sign up for, and then an additional cost of upwards of $1,000 for you to be able to upload it onto major platforms like Apple Music or Tidal. Even if you wanted to render an MP4 to try out film theater mixing, you aren't allowed to export the ADM WAV file with an MP4, so it would be difficult to stitch it together manually in a video editing software, and that's if the video software supports Atmos because of the proprietary metadata format. Surround sound mixing, in my opinion, is the final boss of signal flow, because if you aren't cognizant of the way everything is wired with the plugins you're using, and how it all sends at the end, it's going to blow up in your face and you're going to have to spend hours trying to find a fix online. At the current state of affairs, surround sound isn't at the point where you can make a platinum record at the comfort of your bedroom, because of the lack of open source support for creating file types that will allow you to natively play back a surround mix on your phone, much less trying to use spatial audio with AirPods or any other buds that support simulated surround sound. It's a very useful skill to learn as the demands of audio engineers become more and more digital. But because of the strings attached with Dolby, your mileage varies. Give it a few years and I feel like there will be a much easier way for you to make and enjoy surround sound mixes.
London town, the sun was shining everywhere.
My project is in the genre of pop country / rock country. The first track on this project is Behind Me. I feel this song gives the listener a good introduction to what the rest of the tracks are going to sound like. It also introduces the instrumentation that is the same across all of the tracks, a drum kit, electric guitars, vocals, and bass. The second track is Fight It. This was actually the hardest track to write because I couldn't find a melody for the verse that I liked. During the mix, I also struggled to find a good tone for the guitar, especially in the solo area. The third track, Lucky, is actually the track that went through the most changes over time. It originally was a very pared down acoustic version of what it is now and was supposed to have a campfire sort of feel to it. But after messing around with changing the key, changing the tempo, I decided to speed it up, and it kind of has a jumpier, more fun overall feel to the song. The final song is Florida. This was actually the first song written for this version of this project. Before this song, my project had a completely different basis and idea, so this song sort of inspired all of the others and inspired this project.
Hello, my name is Isaiah Gomez, and my project is about producing a rock EP. In this project, my job is being the sole producer for an artist's EP and bring their music to life. So what is the process? Well, everything. From choosing songs, scheduling rehearsals, recording, and mixing and mastering. So I got the idea for this project after speaking with an artist I've worked with closely for the last 2 years, Jacob Kahn. Jacob Kahn is one of Hootwism's very own artists, and I have been a producer and performer in his two singles Individual and Distant Dream. Jacob had always told me he wanted to record more songs, and we spoke and made a plan to use 3 new songs as my project. What was great about working with Jacob is that he had rough drafts of songs that I could listen to choose which ones we would record. He also gave me the liberty to arrange the songs and add parts that he hadn't already written. The 3 original songs we had chosen to record became a mix of ska punk, pop rock, alternative rock, and rock and roll. After figuring out what songs we were going to record, the next step was scheduling rehearsals and getting practice in to learn those songs. My main objective during the recording process was to make sure each song was recorded the same. Even though each song falls under a different style of rock, I believed it was important to capture the same sound and make sure this EP was coherent. The drums for each song had the same setup. Overheads equidistant from the snare, SM57s on the snare, and Shure Beta 98 clip-on mics for toms. For heavy electric guitars, I simply use an SM57, and for clean guitar, I use an SM57 and a Royer ribbon mic. For vocals, I used the Neumann TLM-103 for all the tracks. When it came to mixing, my job was to bring the songs to life. Because this EP is a blend of styles, I wanted to implement different aspects of each subgenre's sound. What was important was to capture the clean guitar sound found in ska punk. This I made sure to make consistent in each song. There also had to be the right amount of reverb on the drums to emulate the space found in rock and roll without making the drums feel too far away from the rest of the mix. A big thing was vocal editing. There were many takes where Jacob accentuated words differently, and I had to go through each take to find which words gave the song energy and make sure they fit the overall tone of the song. I had to capture that punk aspect we were going for in the vocals, which he does so well. The first track is titled Apocalypse King.
And I'll do whatever it takes while you're still around. Rock and roll apocalypse king, you give me something worth living. You hijacked the radio wave.
The second track is titled Payback.
So I write my songs, and it's payback when you sing along someday, some way, I say.
The final track is titled I'm Different.
If you found love, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna break your heart. You're gonna hate me, I told you. Can't you see that I'm different?
And that's all. Thanks for watching.
Hi, my name is Sebastian Cristancho. I'm going to be talking about the impact of technology on music. Technology in music evolved significantly since the invention of the phonograph and gramophone, at the start of the analog era to the present audio streaming in the digital era. I'll be walking you through the technological developments that made music accessible for mass consumption and revolutionized the music industry. The phonograph and gramophone were analog and not portable. They were later replaced by vinyls. Vinyls were revolutionary because they offered better sound quality and were easier to carry. The first were the 78 RPMs, followed by the 33 RPMs, and the 45 RPMs. Each allowed the number of songs recorded to vary. The differences provided production flexibility and accessibility for consumers and generated great profits for record labels. The vinyls led to music broadcasting through the radio in the 1920s, since having artists play live was impossible. The newly created vinyl records made it easy for radio stations to rebroadcast music as many times and whenever they wanted to. Radio was dominated by vinyls because they were easy to use through airwaves. The cassette tape was another form of recording music that had a huge impact due to its small size and portability. The introduction of portable cassette players like the Walkman made it possible for people to carry and exercise with their music. Cassettes never replaced vinyls in radio stations and nightclubs because it was not easy to find the songs they wanted to play. The cassette gave the consumer the convenience of having music readily available. It also gave them the option to record music from one cassette to another, or from the radio onto a cassette. The music industry, with the help of evolving technology, came up with the first version of digitally recorded music for mass consumption. The CD was released in the 80s. With CDs, consumers were able to share music with the family and friends in single songs via email or save it and distribute it without paying the record label or the artist. This was a disadvantage for the creators and enabled a new problem called piracy. Napster was created in 1999. It was a website where people exchanged music files for free. Napster created chaos in the music industry and was sued by the Recording Industry Association of America for copyright infringement and was forced to shut down. Napster led to the foundation of music streaming services like Spotify, Pandora, and Apple Music, which are paid services that abide by copyright laws and pay royalties to the creators of music. New technology gave us different formats for music, like MP3, MIDI, and WAV. These technologies provide flexibility to create music efficiently and quicker. Software like Pro Tools, Ableton, and others have made it possible for artists to handle the entire production process, including recording and releasing songs. We have moved away from the analog console to the new digital DAWs. What I've learned in this project is that life is full of changes. The music industry has gone through important that has increased the quality and availability of music while decreasing its costs. I've also learned about the legal issues of music, like copyright infringement or piracy. In general, this project gave me a lot of knowledge and made me aware of the awesome evolution of technology in music. The big takeaway is that technology doesn't stop. And as a result, there are always going to be changes to make music better in quality and availability. Technology has given us a lot of cool features, like spatial music, that were not possible in the analog era. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Samuel Riqueros. I'm a commercial music business major, and my research project is based on tour management, live music touring today, and creative strategies that I've come up with in order to help a mid-sized artist and a mainstream artist increase their reach and their profits. Elvis Presley is the first example that I use because he was really a breakthrough artist that shaped the industry today, the touring industry, that is. He would be constantly touring, constantly having shows, which is also because of the managerial abuse that was happening. But thanks to this, he reached the legendary level that he has today. He had his brand set. He was authentic with his brand. He would stay with it until the end of his death, and this helps his audience love him even more. The second example that I go into is King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. They're a newer modern rock band, rock fusion band that use DIY strategies to appeal to a bigger audience and to keep the audience that they already have loyal. They have created merchandise. They use many different artists to design their stuff to have a very, very wide set of options for their fans. They're authentic to their DIY techniques, which people love when you're authentic and you stay true to that. They have a wide variety of textures and music styles, varying from rock, techno, hip hop, metal, pop even, which is also important to appeal to a wider audience. They release their live shows as separate albums, really emphasizing them and selling them. The live experience, which is important for a touring artist because it could help people want to go to their shows. And next, here are the creative strategies that I could talk about. There are partnerships with local bars, restaurants, venues where music is well known that an artist could use to really spread their name locally in whichever town that they're touring. For example, having an after party at a local bar could really help reach those sales. Merchandising innovations can increase fans' interest in the band, not necessarily only clothes, but shoes, I guess you could say, belts, stuff like that, accessories that not many artists sell, that your brand sells, is important. Secret shows are going to be huge in the future. Word of mouth is very powerful, and the crazier you are about your brand, the crazier your audience will be about you. And AI is also something that I touch on. It's very useful for planning finances, for planning trips, etc. Mindtrip, ChatGPT. And these are all just some stuff that I go over in my research project. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Haley McGann, and for my commercial music research project, I'll be talking about rescoring music for film and television scenes. So this project is just a giant exploration on rescoring music for scenes from television and film. I wanted to replicate the process that composers go through when they're scoring new works for visual entertainment. So my goals for this were composing new music that matches the tone of the selected scenes, syncing audio and visual elements, recording, mixing, and mastering all audio components, and incorporating live and MIDI recordings. So each scene I will include the following: excerpts from the original scores I wrote, MP3 recordings, MP4 realizations with synced audio and visuals, and recordings of DAW project sessions. So I want to just take you through my creative process. I started at the piano, with having the scene playing in front of me and sketching out ideas. Once I got a clear idea of what direction I wanted to head in, I immediately went into notation software and determined tempo, time signature, key changes, what have you, going along with the hits of the picture. After I determined that and wrote full scores, I went into Logic Pro, exported all my MP3 information from the notation software into Logic Pro, and then began mixing and fine-tuning from there. For the first scene, I will be showing you a clip from The Incredibles 2. In this session, you can see that I use a lot of tracks. I used over 67 tracks for this project. It's about 4 minutes long. Every blue track is an MP3 recording, and for each MP3 recording, I created a duplicate file, which I labeled the respective instrument name duplicate. The mixing process that I went through for this was adding a good fair amount of low pass EQ and reverb to the duplicate tracks in order to create as full of a realistic sound as possible. Additionally, I also exported MIDI information from the notation software in order to make it easier to sync instrument libraries. Right, so here are some screenshots from the original music I wrote. I wrote for an entire symphony orchestra and rhythm section. Here is the scene. Scored from the show Arcane. I followed the same thought process when it came to the previous scene. As you can see, I used a lot more MIDI this time, as it was my second scene that I wrote. So here's some screenshots of the original score. I wrote again for a full symphony orchestra, as well as some extra odds and ends with some electronic sequences. Thank you for watching this presentation. I hope you enjoyed.
From home to the stage, exploring recording techniques and challenges. My name is Casby Edward, and this is my project. So my project consists of doing a track in 3 different settings. It would be a home recording, a studio recording, and a live recording. So the purpose is to understand the differences in workflow, sound quality, and obstacles encountered. The first track that I did was at home, so it is an original track that I did. I produced it myself and did everything. So the tracking process was really limited. The challenges that I encountered in the home studio was really the acoustics of the room, because it's not a treated room and you could hear noises. And for me, most of the time I do it at night, because at night it's quiet. So that's when I really did my vocal tracking and like the guitar that I recorded for the track. So that's really when I did it, because it was quiet time. And also I get to use like more samples a lot. I use Splice to get the samples that I work with. So really that was the home recording. So the second track was the studio recording. The tracking process was real easy, and because you had that professional mixer that you can work with in Studio A. I tracked my project in Studio A and Studio B together. I tracked drum in Studio B, and everything else I did in Studio A. So really that was easy. The challenge that I encountered in the studio recording was the time issue, because everybody's booking the studio, everybody's trying to get the track done, everybody's trying to work on something, and then me too, like I have other things, I have other classes, I have work, and really find the time to come in the studio and work on my track was really the challenge, because when everybody else is using it, you got to find a time that's free to come in. And even if it wasn't like school related, even if it was like something outside, like me working as a producer, going in any studio around the city would be like finding the time to book the studio. So yeah, that was really the challenge. All right, third track that I did was a live recording. The live recording was fun. This was my first time doing a live recording, and it was fun. So I did it at a church. I went in the church and asked the musical director if I could record their team, and then he said yes. And the challenge really in the live recording settings was the reverb in the room. That could be a challenge because you don't have control over that. And also the bleed, how much bleed there is into the mics, you don't have control over that as well. And so that was really a challenge in the live recording. All right, this concludes my presentation for today, and here's my sources.
So for my research project, I did it on the blending of electronic music and rock music, or electronic rock, whatever you want to call it. Quick rundown of the history. 1945, post-World War II, is when electronic music as a genre began to pop off. Heading into the 50s and lasting until the 70s, saw the earliest forms of commercialized electronic music. And from the 70s to now, you have the creation of the DAW, or digital audio workstation, in addition to the advancement of synthesizers. So for my project, I wanted to be sure that I have a great balance between, synthesized material and acoustic, live recorded, stuff like drums, guitars, bass, etc. So what I did, the first thing I did was I created demos for all of the songs that I wanted to do. And this was before the semester started. And once the semester began, when I started booking studio sessions, that's when I took what I created, I put it into Pro Tools, and I just kind of redid everything, that I needed to do. Like if I recorded guitars at home and I needed to have an actual good guitarist re-record them, then I would have them listen to it, or I'd create a chord chart or whatever. It made it easier to kind of get the recording process going because I already had a vision and I already, had an idea of the things that I wanted. So that made recording simple. The hardest part for me was honestly lyric writing. I'm much better at composing than I am at lyric writing. So I had, Kim and Amelia helped me out with that. Shout out to them, because I suck at that. So now I'm going to talk about the way I divided the work. So I had Ryan do guitars for pretty much every song. I had Bryce record guitars for one song. I had Kim do vocals for every song, as well as drum on 3 of them. I also had Jake and Justin drum on a few songs. And I obviously wrote everything, and I played bass. At this point in time, one song is fully done. Everything else, I just need to tweak some mixes, get a master, edit some of the tracks. But the track that I'm about to show you is pretty much done. This is the final master. And, it was really fun to work on this. I really enjoyed having the freedom to kind of let my mind go wild and do whatever, It was really stressful, but it was worth it, and I think it is a valuable learning experience. And I hope that future seniors watching this video, I hope that you also have fun on your research project. And I don't really have anything else that I want to talk about, so I'm just gonna play the music now.
Sand keeps falling down the hourglass, but I know you'll be watching over. I'm not alone in thinking, I know you're there even when I'm sleeping. Sand keeps falling down the hourglass, but I know you'll be watching over. I'm not alone in thinking, I know you're there even when I'm sleeping. Sand keeps falling down the hourglass, but I know you'll be watching over. I'm not alone in thinking, I know you're there even when I'm sleeping.
My name is Noah Grant, and this is Noah Threshold, producing The Artist Producer. The objective of this research project was to craft the first 3 releases for myself as an artist. I approached the creation of these 3 songs from 3 perspectives. Primarily, of course, as the artist, represented in blue, crafting my sound and aesthetic, a very theatrical, synth-based dance pop moment. Second, as the producer, represented in green, developing proficiency with the necessary tools, particularly in the realm of at-home engineering. It's great that we have access to these state-of-the-art studios on campus. However, when we graduate, we don't. So I think it's very important to learn how to translate all we've learned to what we have. Last is the marketer, represented in red, responsible for curating the story being told, ensuring the hard work of the artist and producer is exposed in the best way possible. The debut single is metaphysical, and it functions as a manifesto for this whole artist project. The main challenge for this track was actually being content enough with it to call it complete. This track has been a work in progress for over 2 years now, and when you hold on to something that long, you build a very grandiose idea of it in your head, and it can be difficult to let it be done. However, it is, and it's coming out May 1st. By the time you're seeing this, you might be able to scan this QR code to pre-save the single. However, if not, you can still scan it to follow my socials and keep up with the rollout. Yes, I am taking this very seriously.
It's gotta be, you get me, metaphysical.
The follow-up track is Sunburn, and it goes in a much more upbeat bubblegum direction than metaphysical while still retaining the same dance sensibility. For this track and the next track, you are only getting instrumentals because I am still finalizing the vocal mix at the time this video is due. Sorry. This track was born out of realizing one of the best K-pop songs ever, by my favorite K-pop group ever, was crafted almost entirely from samples on Splice. This was the perfect opportunity to incorporate the beautiful tradition of sampling into my project without actually having to worry about getting any permissions. This track also incorporates the beautiful tradition of a second verse rap feature by my friend and talented rapper and producer Salem Santiago. The third and final track is To The Max, which takes a 180 into something more dark, slow, and sultry. With With this track, I went for a more minimalist, vocal-driven approach to the arrangement. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. And I also aim to incorporate more acoustic-inspired elements. From the trip-hop drums to the bass VST, I wanted to get a little grittier on top of the shiny synth foundation I've built. Having constructed a diverse yet unified vision as an artist across these first 3 singles, I am positioning myself to smoothly transition into whatever comes from that point onward. And what will that be? Honestly, it's global domination or nothing, so I'm going to need everybody to stream Metaphysical out May 1st. That is the debut single from Noah Threshold, Metaphysical, out May 1st. Thank you for your time.
Hey guys, my name is Joelle Gunthier. I am a senior and I am here to talk about my research project, which is about production techniques for acoustic music subgenres. And I chose this topic because I am very interested in, the producing side and recording pretty much different types of genres. I chose to do pop, like a pop, R&B, and soul genre.
Like it's a bad thing to fall in love with me. It's not a bad thing to fall in love.
Then I chose salsa. And then I chose reggae.
Could you be loved and be loved? Could you be loved and be loved?
And my goal was just to understand how to record different instruments that are included in these genres and how to best record acoustically and then mix them to sound like it's a live, like a live acoustic recording. I mentioned that I didn't use any MIDI. I just used all live instruments in the studio, and I just decided what mics sounded good with what instrument. I only used like a few plugins. I only used EQ, I used compression, and then I used reverb, some delay. That's it. I think the goal was just to record them as well as possible, so I didn't have to, I guess at the end not mix too much, so it's more organic sounding than having a bunch of different stuff on it and it sounding like not what I was going for. So it's going for acoustic sounding performance, if that makes sense. But step 1 is to figure out, before you record, listen, have your musician play what you are having them play, and if it sounds good in the console room, then okay, I like how this sounds, and you record. So you have exactly what you need, an exact take that you are going to be using throughout, your whole song. So that was my senior research project. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I loved, recording the music. If you have any questions, let me know. Bye.
Hello, my name is Keishi Yamaguchi, and I am a commercial music composition major, and this is my research project on mini albums. So what is a mini album? A mini album is a short format album between a single and a full-length album with around 3 to 6 tracks, roughly lasting 15 to 30 minutes long, and usually they don't run more than 30 minutes, but there's been exceptions to that rule. So yeah, before I get into it, I want to just say that everything is on Ableton, and my biggest struggles lie within just mixing and coming up with lyrics. But yeah, my mini album is going to be titled Moving On, about relationship struggles. Track 1, Beautiful Lies, is about a person who wants to move on from their struggling relationship, but they can't because they're so in love with that person. Memories, second track, is all the good times, all memorable moments they've had during their relationship with that person. And Rainy Days is just finally just, moving on because they know that relationship is not going to work out anymore. Yeah, so Beautiful Lies, my biggest inspiration for coming up with this composition, which is like a ballad pop, is My House is Not a Home by David. I really loved like that melancholic but groovy vibe to it. I just wanted to make something similar.
And oh, you used to tell me how you used to love my smile, how you used to care for me. Even through the tough times, I want to stay with you. But baby, you still tell me all these beautiful lies.
Memories. This was a really fun one to make because originally it was supposed to be an R&B track, but then as soon as I heard My Best Enemies from Arcane Season 2, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to make something similar to this. I really love like the beat, reggaeton pattern, right? And yeah, the struggles, obviously, just the lyrics. But yeah.
And all the times we spent dancing the night away. Pack your bags, we're going on a trip on memory lane. Dance with me, groove with me.
And last but not least, Rainy Days. I don't know if you can tell, it's city pop. Oh, I love city pop. But yeah, biggest inspiration, Plastic Love. I love all the little instruments in the back, all like cohesively coming together. But that's also not easy to do, you know. So that's one of the things I really struggled with in this composition. But here we go.
I don't need you in my life cause you just break me. No, I don't need you. And I'm sick and tired of all this drama, baby. I don't care whatever you even have to say to me, cause I'm good on my own. We would argue, we would talk back, we would lash out, I don't care. You can leave me, you can love me, you can block me out.
But yeah, thank you guys. That was my little composition project. But I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I really had a lot of fun making this, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of struggles and challenges, but it was all worth it because one of my first times I actually enjoyed what I did. But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and I really appreciate it.
Hey guys, my name is Daniel Artiega, and I'm a commercial music composition major. Today I'm going to be talking about something really important. I'm going to be talking about my senior research project, which is Sonidos Mestizos, a journey through folk and fusion. So my research project is about Venezuelan folk music and how it can be reinterpreted into other styles. There's a whole lot of history, but I only have 3 minutes to kind of go through it. So we're gonna go through track by track. My first song is called Por Fuerte. It is a merengue caraqueño. It has nothing to do with merengue from the DR or any of the Caribbean islands. Merengue caraqueño is most notably known for being in 5/8. There's a lot of debate on what it's actually in. I think it's in 5/8. Por Fuerte itself means through strength. Talks about kind of like endurance as a college student, being late to class, calling your mom and pretending like you're not stressed. I know all of you have done. So here's a little snippet. I hope you enjoy.
No crees que solo suerte que llegaste fue por fuerte. Ten confianza y verás que la paz encontrarás.
So second, we have Manolo, which is a joropo salsa. Joropo, to put it simply, is a cultural expression from the plains of Venezuela. Very rich with culture, African, European, and indigenous influence, usually in the kind of the 6/8 duple meter with a 3/4. You might be wondering, who is Manolo? Manolo is my great uncle. He's the guy at the function, always like, hey, when are you gonna write me a salsa song, music man? Like, dude, I don't even know how to like write, barely even past music theory 1. I have a little more tools under my belt. I decided to give it a shot and kind of blend these two genres together. So I have joropo and then son montuno, which is, subgenre of salsa. The 6/8 and the 3/4 of the joropo, kind of the, polyrhythm thing going on. And then you also have the polymeter, because the salsa montuno, it has like the 4/4 underneath. So if you really just layer 3/4 and 4/4, you create like this overlapping thing that overlaps with like doing multiple measures. And then you just, it gets like really crazy and spontaneous because you have the syncopation from African influence and European influence. And so it just really gets like really syncopated as well. So here's a clip from that so you kind of hear what it sounds like. Last but not least, we have Apasionado, which is a vals venezolano, also known as a waltz. Has a sweet melody, rhythmic thing going on with the cuatro. Once the drums come in, one-way trip to fusion world. I got kind of silly with this one, really far from the folk stuff, but still kind of there. So here's kind of what that sounds like. Enjoy. all jokes aside, I really did learn a lot through this project about, Venezuelan folk music, my own capabilities of writing, notation, culture, nature inspiration. Final product, of course, I have an EP that when it's fully mixed, very satisfied with. I hope you guys enjoyed. Philo out!
Hi, I'm Gabriella Gens, and for my research project, I produced 3 original songs in different subgenres of pop: pop folk, pop country, and pop rock electronic. Each track explores how production techniques shift across subgenres, from instrumentation to arrangement to vocal processing. The first track, Ponder Sonder by Patricia Jankowski, is a pop folk song. The production uses real instruments like acoustic guitar and live drums, as well as minimally processed electric guitars to create an organic, natural sound. For vocal production, I focused on maintaining a clear, intimate sound to enhance the storytelling. Arrangement-wise, the song builds gradually, adding layers while maintaining a simple production. The second track, The Only Girl That Mattered, I co-wrote with my sister Cassandra Gens. It blends electronic drums with acoustic and electric guitars, mandolin, piano, and bass. The main focus was on making the individual layers work together as a unified background. Layers of slide guitars, acoustic strumming, and electric guitars processed with ambient effects are used to create movement and texture. The vocals, like in pop folk, are mixed to sound clear and intimate. The ultimate goal was to capture a modern pop country sound while maintaining the soft emotion of the lyrics.
It was in that moment when you told me you're in love with someone else, and I couldn't blame you 'cause you never knew about the way I felt. So glad I never took my chances when I wanted to. Back when I thought I was the only girl that mattered to you.
The third track, Can We Travel Back, was also co-written with Cassandra. It's a pop rock electronic track with layered synths, saturated electric guitars, and electronic drums. One guitar acts like a synth pad, and the bass is split into multiple layers for texture. Vocal production here was key, using harmony stacks, formant and pitch shifting, and heavy saturation for texture. There's also transitional effects that help the song flow from section to section.
Been here all along, can we travel back to the taxi ride? Late night under city lights, you're sitting by my side. Saw the glimmer in your eyes and rain falling everywhere. Wind was blowing through your hair, I just couldn't help but stare. Can we travel back? Can we travel back?
Thanks for listening, and here are my references.
Today I want to talk to everybody about genres. Genres have been defined as a category of artistic composition, also known as a style. So the purpose of my project was to make songs in different genres to test my skills in different areas of music. Another challenge I had was to make each song similar enough as to not sound out of place when played one after the other. This is simulating like an LP or a compilation album type of track. The 4 genres I chose were gospel, jazz fusion, rock, and rap. So some of the skills and challenges I dealt with gospel had to deal with using live musicians in a studio. So I had to teach the song, coordinate my musicians, find time to book the studio, and deal with ruined takes. So one take that got ruined, as you're about to hear, is my piano. Obviously, I couldn't leave that in, so I had to make a decision between EQing it or retaking, so I ended up just retaking that take. So here's a little snippet.
You can go far. You're just see it through.
The next one I want to talk about is the jazz fusion track. So this was all about mixing live elements and sequence elements in a unique way. So what happened was I had a limited time for my musicians. So what I ended up doing was taking bits and pieces of their solos and turning it into this whole new type of experience. So as you're about to hear, this is what that sounded like. Notice the cut up tracks. Alright. For the last two, they involve similar skills. I was working with musicians and sequenced elements. So I'll talk about the rap because the problems were more interesting. Turns out in a school full of like hundreds of musicians, not too many are a part of the rap genre. So I thought I was going to have to hire somebody off of the internet using a platform like Fiverr, but what I ended up doing was using myself and a fellow student. So here's a little bit of that.
Yo. Flow de camaleón, me voy transformando, depende donde soy, voy caminando a buscar.
So in conclusion, I developed a lot of skills I'm going to be using throughout my career. And special thanks to my musicians, and here's some of the songs I used as a reference. Thank you.
What I'm finding I'm focusing most on is the space. When they recorded Sunshine of Your Love, they all recorded in one room, so like you can kind of feel that space. Like there's nothing there, but you can kind of and I'm having trouble emulating that with the reverb. It's just not that same space. There's just no way that I can emulate the space of that room that they were in with this Bricasti reverb unit, you know. Although it's a great unit, there's only I can only get so close to that sound because those circumstances that they were under are all like super important, right? Like the space, the drum click, you could hear someone's keys jangling. Those little noises kind of give you a sense of the space, more in terms of like feeling it, like you don't really hear it. So the space that I'm creating with this reverb unit it's just a different color. I think I'm getting like really close though. The space. So originally the idea for my project was just to do 3 sound-alikes from 3 different decades, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I recorded the first one, the 60s, Sunshine of Your Love by Cream. And then in the middle of recording the second one, Use Me by Bill Withers, I had a change of heart. I decided for the third song to just do like an experimental original song and just kind of try to make as many experimental songs as I could.
I've been waiting so long to be where I'm going in the sunshine of your
friends feel it's their appointed duty. They keep on trying to tell me